Patrice Vermette and Shane Vieau, you're the production designer and set decorator, respectively, for Dune Part 2. Now, Patrice, you were also the production designer for Part 1. So, first
Yes.
off, having already done a lot of the world building in the first part, what new challenges and opportunities were there for you in Part 2?
Well, the challenges was we did not want to repeat ourselves. That was the number one goal with Denis. Everything new, even the scenes we shot in Wadi Rum in Jordan and the desert, we did not, believe it or not, return to the same sand dune. But no, everything was fresh, everything was new. But also the script called for that because when we last saw Arakeen, it was carpet bombed by the Harkonnens on the attack that night. So this gave us the opportunity to give Arakeen a new thing, which would be the the Harkonnen taking over, and the cancer growing with and bringing really bringing their architecture into the world of Arakeen, which was fun, and we really explored the Getty Prime. We explored Caton for the first time and the world of the Fremens. So that was a good challenge and create cultural identity to these families. So it's fun.
And Shane, coming into Dune, this world with so much established lore and detail from both the books and the first film, was it ever overwhelming to wrap your head around?
Not gonna lie, yes. There were only, I think, three department heads that changed from number one to number two. So it was definitely a challenge to get up to speed and understand the language of each one of these worlds. But everyone was very, very accommodating in helping me get up to speed.
And what was the collaboration between the two of you like? Like, what were some of the early conversations and considerations that went into, your teamwork together on part two?
Well, from my end, I met Patrice back in 2018, and we developed what I would say probably a friendship first. And we had tried to work together over 3 to 4 years, and we finally got the opportunity to on this one. So this was a very good learning curve for him and I to sort of get up to speed with each other and how each other works. And what was great about number two was that there was a 274-page lookbook that was established before I even started the show. So it was great to be able to sit and have these conversations with Patrice on how to embellish and grow each one of these illustrations.
And Patrice, you've worked with director Denis Villeneuve on multiple films. What
Yes.
about him as a filmmaker? Have you appreciated and that has really contributed to this working relationship going on for as long as it has?
No, no, absolutely. The thing with Denis is like we kind of professionally grew up in the same circles in Montreal. We come from independent films and from movies to movies we do together. The relationship, it's like, okay, we look at each other, like two kids still playing with Legos, that type of thing, and we look at each other. Okay, let's push it a bit further. Let's see if we can. Okay, let's push it a bit further. And Denis is someone who allows people around him to dream. And and every movie we dream a little more, a bit more. And that it's a fantastic partnership, I would say. Then he allows the people around him to have fun, and it's really a team effort. So
And Shane, I believe this is your first time working with Denis Villeneuve. What were your impressions of him as an artist and a collaborator?
You know, my first meeting with him was during a Zoom meeting, and sitting in a room when you first hear his voice, it is so iconic. It reminded me of someone like Darth Vader. Like his voice is just very, uh, you know, iconic. And when he speaks, you just want to listen. And, I was very nervous meeting him for the first time, but I will say is that that man welcomes everyone into his world and is such a gentleman. He knows exactly what he wants, and he is very ingratiating.
yeah. There's one thing which is fantastic about Denis and the collaborative effort is like Okay, there's 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 the world that we created, like all these illustrations, and it takes them. Obviously, he selects the worlds that he likes, that he likes, but then he goes into his office and works very, very hard on the storyboards. And for Denis, that's where, like, there's moments we call the methodology meeting. So any given scene, like he really storyboards the whole movie. It's crazy. Is that precise? And in those meetings, we're also all heads of departments are around the table, and he comes out. We're all and he distributes himself the storyboards, and then we look at the first time. Okay, this is how he wants to tell that scene, and we all discover it at the same time. And we're like, okay, we start scratching our head and we're like, how the hell are we going to do that? And then the conversation with every head of department begins. And these are extraordinary meetings. They should be filmed because they're interesting. Because that's when everybody needs to put their egos outside the door, outside the room, and everybody pitch like an idea, and we are allowed to say the most ridiculous idea on how we think we could achieve a specific shot, because someone else will bounce from that idea and it'll trigger something else, and then that's how we we make his vision happen. There's no way in that room nobody says, well, we can't do that, let's do this instead. No, 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 it's like, how can we achieve his vision? And it's his own language. It's every time we're always like scared, but also excited about the way that he tells his stories.
And we spend a lot of time with the Fremen, in Dune Part Two. How did you two like work to establish the culture and the kind of style and the visual look of those communities?
I think the idea is to make like credible, even for the Harkonnens, credible towards their identity. The credit, you need to believe that these are real culture. So every culture has like excuse my the comparison I'm gonna do, but it's like a sandbox. Everybody knows what the sandbox for each culture to play. And for the Fremen, the main thing is survival to the elements in which they live in. So not only they need to survive, the colonial entity that controls the planet because of the spice exploitation, but also they need to fight the element all the time, and they need to tell their stories because they don't know if one day they will cease to exist. So that's why, and on the architectural aspect of it, they always write, their stories on the walls, even in the cave of birds, which is the cave where they retreat after the Harkonnen attack. Um, maybe it's not writing, but it's like the concept is like fingerprints, which is also like a symbol of identity, and also the sand seeping through everywhere. So that shows how that culture is in survival mode all the time. So it's survival, 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 and throughout that, Shane, I will let Shane speak. He created a beautiful art, um, introduced in their furniture and their props, with what they live on a daily basis. Fabric.
The reality is you start with how they live their day to day, and you basically break down that componentry. And then through many conversations with props and us and Patrice, we work out the language and the materials of each one of these pieces to sort of bring it to life and make it sit in the environment in a very homogenous way.
And of course, the film incorporates a lot of visual effects. How did your two departments, our department and the visual effects department, really collaborate on really realizing the vision of Arrakis and all of the planets and all of these worlds that you visit?
Well, the visual effects, as Shane mentioned, for all the set extensions and all the when the movie starts, most of everything has been designed with me and my team of concept artists. We not only like create the rooms in which the action takes place, but we also think about the whole environment. So, and the way we work is with models. So we use different software model making, and these are assets, are like 3D assets, which is used, which on day one of the pre-production are used by every head of departments, whether it's the DP who uses, to understand the sets, he uses his 3D elements, takes that and put that on Unreal Engine, and then starts playing with the light. Whether it's the VFX department, they use the models from the art department, and they start to do previs elements, storyboard artists, etc. So I love working with Paul Lambert and his team, because that's, there's an understanding that the artwork starts, this is because the artwork is approved by Denis, so it starts there, and they really put me involve me in the process, so I like it very much.
You would also be surprised by most of the studio sets did not have set extensions. They were only purposeful in vignettes and stuff like that. So surprisingly, it was mostly built sets. It was nice to see.
Was there a particularly difficult challenge or challenging scene or sequence that the two of you faced and had to overcome difficulties in the design and decoration that you can remember?
So for me, the big one was the Baron in his chair and his breathing apparatus, because that was all done physically. They were not VFX. And so bringing those three components together and having them move as they did in their environments was extremely challenging, because each one of these pieces moved independently, and the breathing apparatus had such a life to each one of them. If you look at them, they were all done physically, and they all have movement to them as they moved. And it was such a beautiful thing to see.
There was also the still tent. I would add to Shane's challenge, because on part one there were some still tents, but on part two I was not super happy with the design, and I asked Denis the permission to have a second try to rethink the still tent, and that created a bit of a challenge to my friend Shane over here.
It definitely was one of those pieces that when you look at it on screen, it feels very, very simple. But the reality is, to get light through this fabric, it turned into about 4 to 6 months of development. Lots of fabrics were developed. That fabric turned out to be what I would call a 5-ply. It was silk that was silk screened, plus another layer of acetate, laser cut leather to give you the organic shape of the leaf, and to put that all together in a 3-dimensional sort of tent that wasn't just a straight bow, it sort of bowed inwards. It was extremely complicated, and the engineering on it took a lot of people to get that right. And each time we would show a prototype, Patrice would add another dimension to it to make it much more beautiful, and it just became the challenge through the whole. Again, it was really 4 to 6 months to develop that tent, even though it was such a simple set.
No, exactly. Sometimes it doesn't look like that. The simplest, what looks super simple, can be a bit of a headache. But I was super happy in the end, and everybody was. You raised the challenge, which I know I gave you a headache. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh, good.
Now, you're both Oscar winners. Patrice, you won for Dune Part 1, and Shane, you won for The Shape of Water. What did that recognition mean for both of you to be recognized by, especially by your peers?
So, at the end of the day, it is a very humbling experience, and you are very lucky when you win. I will say that the year that I won, each one of the films that were up that year potentially could have won. It was a very, very, very strong year. And I feel very blessed that we did win. I think you have to lose your ego at the door. I think it humbles you. And it just makes you very appreciative of the craft that you do.
no, it's a huge pat on the shoulder. It's a huge encouragement, and it's you like from your coming from your peers. It's just as I'm saying, like an encouragement to okay, let's carry on. It's like it's super encouraging and it's humbling, as Shane is mentioning, and it's something that you never expect, because I'm like I come from Montreal, and something like that you never can imagine be can you realize in a lifetime. And it was like you're pinching yourself, like, is this really happening, or am I in a coma somewhere and I'm just imagining this? And yeah, it's very special.
Yeah.
And the Dune story continues over multiple books. So, is this a world you'd be interested in returning to, either of you, if the opportunity arose?
Most
Yes.
definitely. Most definitely. And but as long as Denis part of it, because it's kind of it's the Dune family. It's Denis' vision, and yeah, as long as Denis part of it, I want to be part of it.
Me too.
Well, I want to congratulate both of you on your work on this film. As much work as clearly went into it, you can see all of it on the screen. And thank you so much for talking with me about it.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.